It's the Dalma Heyn Show. Dalma Heyn is a best-selling author, psychotherapist, and speaker who has written widely on women, culture, and relationships. Her books, The Erotic Silence of the American Wife, Marriage Shock, The Transformation of Women into Wives, and Drama Kings, The Men Who Drive Strong Women Crazy, have been published in 34 countries and bestsellers both here and abroad. Her newest book, A Godsend, a novel written with her husband Richard Merrick, is a love story for grown-ups. Now here's Dalma.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Dalma Heyn. This month is Valentine's month. Why do I say month instead of day? Because at no other time in the year are so many restaurants booked so far in advance, so many greeting cards sent, so many flowers, chocolate, and champagne delivered to doorsteps, and so many fiancés fashioning innovative ways to pop the question. In fact, 1 billion cards are sent worldwide for Valentine's Day. The Greeting Card Association estimates that 85% of all Valentine's Day cards are purchased by women, and 15% of all flowers bought on Valentine's Day are also bought by women for themselves. 5 other little-known irrelevant facts. When the Church declared February 14th St. Valentine's feast day in 498 AD, it was not to celebrate romance, but to replace the festival of Juno, the Roman goddess of love and marriage, which had pagan practices associated with it that the Church didn't like. Another fact, Sweden is the only Western nation that doesn't celebrate Valentine's Day. In England, St. Valentine's Day was declared an official holiday in 1537 by Henry VIII. I love you, darling, now off with your head. Alexander Graham Bell applied for his patent for the telephone on February 14th in 1876. And the candy company Necco of Necco Wafers has been making heart-shaped candies for the holiday since 1902. For an American holiday that we all agree is pretty seriously hyped, Valentine's Day does offer us a chance to express what we don't in our daily lives, romantic feelings, to discuss the promises, pressures, and pitfalls of this day of love. I've invited psychotherapist Michael Loeb to be with us tonight. Michael is not only a therapist, he's a lawyer, he's been a businessman, and what I like most about him is that he's a guy with very, very, very strong and passionate ideas about love and romance, as I do. So, let's start with Romance 2012, Michael, and welcome to the show.
Nice to be here. Thank you, Dalma.
We all know that courtship went out with Mr. Darcy, but do you think that women still want to be courted, even though they're liberated and independent and not asking for courtship?
Well, that's a very good place to start. I would say that courtship isn't dead, but it may be on the endangered species list.
I think so.
I would say courtship, to a certain extent, is, or the lack of courtship in today's society, to a certain extent, may be a bit of an unintended consequence of women's lib, and men feeling a little uneasy about how they should proceed in relationships. They know that women still like it when a man takes them out to dinner, pays for dinner, is a gentleman.
So you think women still like to be courted and that men like to court?
I think they do, but I think the art is sort of falling by the wayside.
Yeah.
Because to a lot of people, they like it, but there are overtones of, the old roles, the old models.
Yes.
Where the man was in charge and the woman was, very feminine and all the flutter, and that doesn't work today.
No. Do you think that the day itself, Valentine's Day, is suddenly burdened with too much responsibility for expressing for very busy people. It's like the one day where you get to say, let's be romantic, and most people don't even have time for romance. Do you think Valentine's Day is overburdened, or do you think that it's a fun day to go out and play?
Well, it's what I like about Valentine's Day is that it's for both people. Mm-hmm. It's not one person's birthday. It's
right. That's a good point.
It's for both people, and it's a way to celebrate the relationship, despite all the hype and all the commercialism.
Right.
But I think your point is well taken about romance, because to me, the essence of romance is being able to create an environment where the two people can focus on each other. Mm-hmm. It's free of distractions.
Right.
No cell phones going off,
right.
Nobody texting,
right.
Quiet. You create a certain ambiance. And it's all about the amount of attention that you're paying to each other, because one of the key ways that people show how they care about each other is the amount of attention that they pay. And in today's world, of everything speeded up, constant distractions, people just don't really pay that much focused attention to each other.
Do you think that's why it's a day that makes so many people feel so many different feelings of they get anxious, they suddenly, the expectations of, married people suddenly wish they were singles, single people wish they were married. Suddenly all these longings that we have about love that never materialized get manifested on Valentine's Day. Does that show up in your practice at all?
Definitely. One of the first things you have to recognize is that very few people come to me for couples therapy because they have great relationships.
Right, exactly.
And they want to tell me how,
exactly.
They want to pay me to tell me
yeah.
how great their relationships are.
Yeah.
That said, Valentine's Day can be very anxiety producing because it brings to the forefront thinking about what the actual state of your relationship is.
Exactly.
Okay, what kind of card do you get? What do you say? You want to be authentic, but you don't want to disappoint the other person.
Right.
So it can be fraught with a lot of anxieties, particularly if there are problems in the relationship, because it sort of brings everything to a head or to a point.
Right. I'm going to go to some questions from viewers and readers, and I'm going to throw them at you, because these are real people who have written me over the past year about Valentine's Day. I'm 26, I've just begun dating a lovely guy, and Valentine's Day is going to be the day for us. I've had my skin exfoliated, I've had a Brazilian wax job in the shape of a heart, and I'm ready to roll. But neither of us has been to the other's home. At whose place, his or mine, should we do this?
Well, I don't know if there's any shoulds involved here, but
I do.
I would say from a man's standpoint, the man would probably be more comfortable at the woman's place.
Yeah.
Most men are not great housekeepers, so they probably, I would think from a man's standpoint, especially if a woman is inviting the man in.
And I'm going to go. I'm going to go the other route. I'm going to say, why should a woman be the one to worry? I would say to women, go to his place. You don't want to be a hostess. You don't want to worry about whether there's makeup on your counter. You want to be taken care of for the night. So it would just automatically make her the hostess. And I like the idea of having the guy in the position of being the host for the evening. So we differ on that, but we may agree on the next. My husband hates Valentine's Day, says, and I quote, "It's the most violently commercial assault on both genders since Christmas ceased to be a religious holiday." And he goes on and on about the pressures on men to spend and on women to expect. And I love Valentine's Day and dread the inevitable yearly standoff. how do I keep him from ruining the fun of it for me?
Okay, that's a tough one. It's definitely a challenge. And it sounds like, to a certain extent, she has her work cut out for her. What I would suggest is try to keep it light and try to make it as much fun as possible.
Right.
So that the man isn't feeling, pressure. It's like, let's just go out and enjoy ourselves. It doesn't have to be heavy. And if worst comes to worst, horse trade. Say, look,
Oh, that's a good idea.
this is something I really enjoy. I know you're not that into it, but let's do it. Maybe you'll have fun and find out, if there's something that your boyfriend would like you to do that, maybe you're not that ecstatic about, but you
Right.
say, and then, we'll do this, which is something you want to do.
Another thought is just to take the curse off Valentine's Day itself and just don't ever mention it. Just have a lovely dinner. Just say we're going out, or and not to get into the business of feeling as if you're going to be attacked for loving the crass commercialism of it, which this woman clearly does.
Well, one of the things that I find to be very interesting is the idea that there is a difference between men and women. I mean, there are some differences.
Uh-oh.
And aside from the obvious
Do
ones.
tell.
And to a certain extent, I find this to be true, that men and women, by and large, want the same thing. Okay, they want to connect.
Yes.
They want to be appreciated.
Yes.
They want to feel accepted
Yes.
and loved for who they are, not
Yes.
for, what the other person thinks they are
Right.
or should be.
Right.
But to a certain extent, I think women place a little more importance on romantic love. Women really want to be adored by their mate. And I think it's a little more important, not that men don't
No,
enjoy
I
being
understand.
adored, I think it's a little more important for a man to be understood, to feel like, the woman he's with really gets him. So if he's grouchy or grumbly, it doesn't turn ugly, that, she understands, he
Right.
probably had a bad day or whatever. So I think, which goes back to your point about, do women want to be courted? Okay,
Yes, but
women really want to
I
know
think-
that the man thinks that they are special.
I think that too, and I think men want to too, but I really find that women want to be understood, and that just what you're saying about what men want. So my attitude would we both want the same things. We want to be adored and we want to be understood, because so many women say he doesn't get me, and I think so. I don't agree that that's a gender-based difference.
Well, I think what you're saying also brings up an interesting point that I find a lot in my practice in talking to couples. And I think this historically, or more stereotypically, has been identified as a female problem, but I'm finding a lot of men who come in to see me are complaining of the same thing, which is they don't feel that they can really talk to their partner, and that their partner really isn't talking to them.
That's
It's
interesting.
more that the people are talking at each other. They're not really connecting.
Is that time? Is that a question of
To a certain extent.
and social media, that you're doing so much sort of shorthand on your iPhone that talking has become almost an unusual art?
Right. I think that definitely makes the problem worse. It definitely exacerbates it. But I think it's even more in terms of the way we communicate. Okay.